Alright, what's up guys? Can you hear me? Let me just double check, make sure the audio is okay. Alright, sounds good. So I'm just gonna go over some of the things that happened last week and kind of give you guys a little bit of an update of what I expect to see this coming week as well. So I'm looking at the dollar chart. This is obviously where I always like to start, and I was bearish last week. I was looking for, obviously wanted to see this weekly fair value gap hold. So when last week started, I think that entire move lower started on Monday. This right here, that was on Monday. So we did hit a premium of that last dealing range. So this last leg lower, price retraced into a premium, and also this daily fair value gap, which was kind of what I wanted. And then we got the rejection lower. Now the problem is, after that, we kind of had this crappy sideways action, right? With NFP, CPI. It was just a very news heavy week last week. Yeah, so price kind of just stalled there. Let's see, do we have any red folder events this week? We got a bank holiday starting on Monday, so that's going to be something to keep in mind. And nothing on Tuesday. We got the FOMC meeting minutes on Wednesday. Unemployment claims Thursday. PCE price index on Friday. Yeah, so I mean, I'd say the FOMC meeting minutes usually isn't as big of a deal as the normal FOMC where they're actually deciding the rates. The meeting minutes is kind of like a summary and additional details into the decision that was made, what the Fed are looking at. Tends to be a little less volatile compared to the regular FOMC, but it can still bring in some volatility. So I'd be looking on at Wednesday and Friday for high impact news events. Friday we have PCE as well, so I think that's more inflation data, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I'd be watching those 2 days. For now though, I still expect price to continue lower on dollar for the most part. That was the high that was, that we pushed down. I think this was all Monday, and then this was all CPI, NFP, whatever, right? Just a lot of sideways action. But yes, I am still bearish. There's no reason for me to be overly bullish yet or to change that bias. So I am expecting lower overall on the dollar. Check Euro and GU really quick. I know I'm really interested in the New Zealand dollar this week. That's one Forex pair that I am very keen to look at for longs. So here I am on the weekly. Obviously, we had this nice little bounce from that fair value gap, and it's been pushing higher, right? You've got a lot of momentum here with this weekly fair value gap being respected. This is going to be the next target, about 80 pips away. Yeah, we're at 604. But that swing high, that's going to be my, where is it? There we go. So from where we are to up here, yeah, it's about 80 pips away. So this is actually going to be a pair that I am going to be watching closely this week. I really like the strength behind the New Zealand dollar, and with the fact that I'm bearish on the US dollar, I'm expecting this, to push up into those highs in the coming days or week or two. And then this was you see how we got the engulfing candle after we tapped it on the weekly. This was the weekly fair value gap. Price came down. We got the engulfing, telling us our higher low is likely in. And then now we're just kind of got we've got a little bit of consolidation happening, but I'm just waiting for CISD. So CISD would probably be, a closure above that, but ideally above that. You get that, and then for me that's a easy swing long on this pair. And I say swing, but it could honestly take place within a day. It's only 80 pips, right? So moves like that in Forex, it could happen in a couple of days. But the trade would be something like this. All right, so the entry on the closure, stops at the lows whenever that CISD takes place, targeting those highs. That would be my target, or that would be my play for this particular pair. Even the Australian dollar actually is showing a lot of strength, more so than the New Zealand dollar, I think. And I remember opening up a chart on, last week I remember looking at the futures for the Australian dollar and saying how much strength it was showing, right? So I expect that to continue. Yeah, we're probably gonna go for those highs next. That's about 80 pips away as well. So both of these pairs, I feel they're going for liquidity right now. For Aussie dollar, this swing high, the New Zealand dollar, the other one that I just showed a couple of minutes ago. So yeah, these two pairs, definitely more interested in trading them this coming week or two compared to euro, where we did kind of retrace into this weekly fair value gap. This was a level I watched last week as well, but we haven't quite had a push or a powerful push yet from that level. And part of it was that this is inversely correlated to the dollar index, and that kind of moved sideways with NFP and CPI for the most part. So nothing really happened, right? We pushed up early in the week. So if I just go to the daily, there we go. This was Monday. We pushed up early in the week, and since then we've just kind of been moving sideways for the most part. But I mean, I'm still bullish on both of these pairs, obviously, because they're, when I say both, I mean this and GU. I'm still bullish on both of these pairs. I expect them both to go up to a high. This is really nice because it even came back down into a discount, right? So this retrace came back to below this 50% mark. So it came back into a nice little discount, and then we got a reaction. It just stalled. So I still believe we're gonna go back up for those highs, but in terms of strength and plays that are available for me right now, I'm primarily focusing on the New Zealand dollar and the Australian dollar this coming week. Those are going to be the two pairs that I really watch for in Forex. Yeah, I don't really like trading the Canadian dollar or the Swiss franc as much, to be honest. We just swept those weekly lows. Yeah, I'm not really interested in these pairs over here. What's going on with the yen dollar? Now the yen strengthened significantly last week, right? I remember looking at the futures chart last week for the yen, and I mean, it was weak, but this past week it showed a lot of strength. So let me just show you what I mean. So when I was looking at where's it? Right here. Yeah, all of this happened last week, right? We were all going lower, and I mean, we've been in a downtrend forever. I mean, the yen's been weakening in general forever. So I was expecting the move lower to continue after I saw that. That didn't happen. We started the week with great momentum right away. So That's kind of reflected in this USD JPY pair as well. If I just go back there now, yeah, just going down. And this was why I kind of took that trade. I think it was on Tuesday that I took that trade on USD JPY with you guys on Telegram. It was really nice price action. So I'll kind of just go over that really quickly right now. We had this sweep. Oh, come on. We had this sweep on the weekly time frame, right? In the early January, we swept those highs. We got a bearish engulfing, so it was a really nice reaction. We got to move lower, leaving behind this fair value gap, right? So for me, people sometimes see that and they think, okay, that's a bullish candle. I don't really like playing off of that. A lot of these wicks, when you've got really long wicks on one end, they tend to get filled out. At least a portion of it does. So when I looked at this chart a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to see price come back into this fair value gap and possibly fill out some of that wick, right? Obviously, with yen weakening, I wasn't paying too much attention to it, but that was the idea. And so over here, once again, once we did that and we retraced into a premium, which is really nice. So we came into a deep premium over here. We got a nice reaction right away on Monday, and then we kept going lower, right? So this was one of the few pairs, actually, one of the few major pairs that really gave nice price action last week. You compare that to Euro and to GU, where there was a lot of chop because of NFP and CPI. This one was clean. So once it started, so let's take a look at what happened, right? We got that sweep, we got a bearish engulf, and this was just a clean move lower. So especially on the 30-minute, this was basically like a classic market maker sell model, where price pushes, accumulates, pushes higher, accumulates, keeps going up. Once it hits a key level, as it did over here, that the premium, the weekly fair value gap, we start kind of going sideways. Then you get your sweep that's telling you, okay, it's ready for the move lower now. And then we get a shift in our structure, and then price now just forms such a clean, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and your job is to just find a way to take advantage of that. So for me, I think the trade that I took was this one over here. Or was it this one? I don't remember. I think it was on Tuesday. It's on the Telegram, but yeah, it was this leg right here, this leg lower. So it's very small compared to the entire leg down, right? But it wasn't a swing trade. This was meant to be an intraday trade for me. So for me, that intraday trade got in around 36, I think, targeted new lows. It was a really good 30 pip trade. Solid work for a Tuesday for me. I would have wanted to get in on more of the price action because the target is still lower. I'm pretty sure, given how we've fallen, that price is probably going to want to go for these lows, right? There's just no reason for me to believe that we're not going for that next. But you see, Wednesday, Thursday was just really crappy price action again. So it was nice to have gotten a piece. I would have liked to have gotten more, but because of the news events, I really didn't want to risk any of my capital after Tuesday. So it was a nice little trade, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into how I'm thinking, right, when it comes to wanting to frame my trades. We got a nice higher time frame liquidity level that was swept here. We got a nice reaction shortly after with this bearish engulfing, and we got a weekly fair value gap left behind. So that's where I want to look for shorts, right? And then when price comes in and retraces, ideally when you're wanting to sell, you want to sell at a premium, right? And when you want to buy at a discount. So price retracing to a premium here was solid. That was exactly what I wanted. So we got a sweep on the higher time frame, then we got a key level. Price retraces, doesn't just touch it, but goes into a premium. And then on the lower time frame, you see this kind of range forming with a sweep before we get our shift in structure, right? So this is the left side of the curve, the buy side of the curve. Then you get This is that smart money reversal, as they like to call it, and then we move down right after, right? Now think about how many times you could just, once you see this forming, there's your engulfing right there, right? When was this? This was right before New York started at 6 a.m. Eastern time, right? Every time you form a lower high, basically what's happening is, there's some sort of confirmation. If not on the 1 hour, you can easily go find it on the 15-minute or the 30-minute, right? There were quite a few. There's one there. There's one there. There's one right there, right? You want to match that with maybe a kill zone. Once you have that hard time frame narrative, okay, weekly level comes up into a premium. I'm ready to act on my bias. Then you just got to wait for the right time and the right setup to present itself on the lower time frame to execute. And so that's what that UJ trade was from Tuesday. I was just super conservative about it because I didn't want to hold on to any swing trades with how news heavy last week was, right? So yeah, that's that. I'm still planning to, if I get a trade early on in the week, I don't know what's going to happen, because whenever Monday opens, we seemingly get something crazy. Every weekend has been kind of nuts, if I were to be honest. But I am looking for these lows to get taken out. That's still about 60 pips away, so it's a solid trade if we can get a setup. But I don't know if we'll get any on Monday, especially given that it's also a bank holiday in the U.S. But yeah, this is my target for UJ. I don't know if we're gonna get a sweep of those highs, to be honest, any of those highs before going down for these lows. So that's gonna be first target, and that's gonna be second target. Right. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. And if we really displace lower below these lows, like with strength, then on the higher time frame like this is the weekly, I'm gonna end up looking for this level right here. Now, that's a 600 pip move. But given how uncertain things are fundamentally around the world, obviously a reversal can come in at any moment, and an unexpected move can happen at any time. But if we really get a displacement down below these lows, I'm going to be targeting those lows as my next target. So we'll see how that plays out. But for now, I'm just looking for these lows to start the week early on. It's only a 60 pip move, and UJ is actually pretty volatile if you think about it. So that's something for me to keep an eye on. So bullish on New Zealand dollar, Australian dollar, looking for trades on that. And then I'm bearish on USD JPY, looking for shorts on this. That's really what I'm planning for when it comes to Forex for this coming week. Yeah, so those, and I've given my levels as well. All right, let's go to gold really quickly. This was a trade that I took on Friday for whoever was there in the Telegram. Obviously, you can see I was stopped out, and that's something, right? I try not to hide my losses. I try to be as transparent as possible. I don't want to give a false sense of picture that you're gonna win every trade or whatever. That's not the case, at least not for me. And I believe that anybody who says that they can win every trade or predict the market with some sort of certainty, I think they're lying. I just don't think that's possible. But that doesn't mean profitability is not possible, right? It is possible. If you have a model that exhibits an edge, because you've back tested it and forward tested it, and then you know how to execute it with discipline and risk management, I think that can lead to a completely different story, but either way, wins and losses in trading come a dime a dozen. What's going to set you out ultimately is your risk management. So we got this. So let me just talk about what I was looking for. This was the high. Yeah, we had this high. This was the high that I was really watching. So when Friday started, we kind of grinded up higher, all the way to sweep those highs during the New York session, which is usually when I like to see the liquidity sweep, because manipulations during New York have been happening so often lately, especially after that 9 a.m. mark. It's been pretty frequent, and they've been giving good trades over the last few months. So we got this move higher right before the 9:30 open, and then this right here was the 9:30 open, immediately followed by a by this candle right here. Right, we got a bearish engulfing, and so I got my entry on the candle. Was it? I don't remember, but I think it was down. I think it was on the candle closure that I got my entry, and then I was targeting these lows. Now, in hindsight, I should have taken profits right here, because that's a level that I've talked about it a lot. This level, this is basically a no wick candle, right? And again, I'm not assuming credit for this. I actually heard of this whole no wick thing from another trader. His name's Finesse. Well, his name's Grant, but his handle is Finesse or something on Twitter, I think. And yeah, so when I started, obviously, I think he uses it. He knows his models around it. But for me, I don't use them for entries or anything. But I do use them for TPs very often, because I realized after watching it for a while that these no wick candles tend to give nice little reactions. So even though I was aiming for that low, I kind of overlooked that. And it's not like price stopped right there immediately, but I should have probably taken profit on my shorts. We dipped down, and then we immediately got bought back up after digging into this order block and that no wick low, right? And so it is what it is. That was a loss for me. And then price ultimately just kind of grinded, chopped around for the rest of Friday. We did end up closing, higher up here though. But let's take a look. Honestly, it's kind of tough for me to have a bias right now, unless we see like a 4-hour or daily candle begin to close above this fair value gap for gold. Yeah, after this drop, this has just been like chop, right? And that's never fun to trade. So it's hard to really have a bias for how gold is going to react in the coming days, or even the next couple of weeks. But this level for me, like if price starts to close above it, right, then yeah, I believe that we're going to go target these highs again, the 5600 level. Maybe not. I mean, this zone, I'm not saying we're necessarily going to go sweep it, but yeah, like until as long as this level is holding, I'm still looking for some sort of a reaction to maybe take a trade lower. We got these equal lows here that I wouldn't mind seeing get swept. I feel like there's still a lot of greed in the market when it comes to precious metals, even though we had this crazy drop a couple of weeks ago, right? I still feel there's a lot of greed there. Like, it has not yet been reset. People panic for a little bit. Yeah, there's still a lot of euphoria surrounding precious metals right now. So I do feel like there's a chance we could drop further. So yeah, this level for me though is, I mean, what I feel and what the charts tell me can sometimes be two different things, right? So that's why this daily fair value gap, that's kind of the line in the sand for me. If price can get up above it, close up above it, then I'm gonna look for those highs. I'm gonna be looking for longs all week, just trying to see if we can push up into that level. But if we can follow through on this engulfing right here, then yeah, first target would be that low, and then this low, right? All the swing lows that you can see on here, right? And then ultimately on the higher time frame, these equal lows would be the target for gold. But silver has been honestly exhibiting even more weakness, right? You look at that, we haven't even had a significant retrace on silver, and we've already swept the equal lows that I had marked out that I was watching for. I'm not sure why I use that color, but I know exactly what I was trying to mark. But the color was annoying me, so I had to get rid of it. That red level that I had marked just now, that's where I want to see silver form its floor, so to speak, right? Basically around there, above the $50 mark. I want to see price come back, maybe retest it, form some sort of a reaccumulation phase over there before the next leg higher. I'm still overall bullish on this, right? For fundamental reasons and on a technical level. You see what happened on the monthly. Sure, we got this insane wick to the upside all the way to about $120. But remember what I said about long wicks. Like, I think that more, like, there's a good chance that a lot of it tends to get filled out. So this doesn't necessarily make me bearish, and the price just came down to this monthly fair value gap. We're bouncing off of it really nice right now. So, you know, yeah, if we do kind of end up consolidating or moving sideways after this, because this was a really insane run up higher, right? And basically we were what, at about the $30 mark last year. Yeah, so we went up 4 times, from about $30 all the way up to 120, and we're still up about 2.5 times from there. So it's pretty crazy when you think about it, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if we did end up just kind of ranging here, moving sideways, right? Which is why I'm also thinking gold could potentially dip, because the euphoria is not over. You know, the next leg usually doesn't just come because people are constantly buying. It comes when people get quiet and get a little nervous and anxious, or they even just stop paying attention to it because, well, they're bored, right? And you've seen that so many times with Bitcoin and crypto in the past. Whenever the bull cycle started, it just comes out of nowhere for the most part, right? And usually those cycles end with people just getting bored and not talking about it at all because there's no action, and then it just comes out of nowhere, right? So even though this is a different market, it speaks to human psychology in general, right? At the end of the day, these markets run on human psychology and human emotions. That doesn't change whether you're trading gold, silver, forex, or crypto. But yeah, I am looking for a price floor to maybe form somewhere here. I'm probably more keen to look for shorts on silver than I am on gold, just because gold has been showing more strength, right? Relative to silver. You guys saw that retrace. It was just, there was more strength behind it, right? I think gold is actually up to a premium right now on its retrace. So let me just draw out a fib. Yeah, we're above the 50% mark, right? So we are in a premium for gold. It has managed to retrace into a premium, but silver has not. Yeah, silver barely hit the 382 that first time around, and now for this entire move, you know, it's still struggling at that 382. So we have not entered a premium for silver. I'm not saying that it will come or it won't, but that just goes to show that silver is exhibiting more weakness compared to gold right now. So yeah, if I were looking for shorts, I would probably be leaning towards looking for those shorts on silver. The only thing that kind of bugs me is that we've already swept these equal lows over here, right? Whereas for gold, there were still those equal lows that hadn't been swept. So yeah, just something I'm keeping in mind. Let's see. Let's go to NQ real quick. Alright, so this is NQ. Now, I am going to say this. The plan that I laid out in last week's Outlook really played out, right? So, I don't know if you guys remember, but when was this? This was Friday. I remember none of this. So, starting here, none of this had happened yet, right? And I mentioned that I'm still targeting these lows. Like, even though we had a really strong, bullish close last Friday, I was still targeting these lows. And what I wanted for NQ was for it to, number one, come into a premium, which it did, and to specifically come into this volume imbalance right here, right, which it also did, and that was actually the high of last week, right, which we got on, what was it, we got on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday was when we had that real move down. So price ended up coming straight into this volume imbalance and gave a reaction. Now, I'm still standing by what I said last week. I'm still targeting lower prices for NQ right now. I still think that we're going to go for these lows and then these lows eventually. 24,100, yeah, the 24,160 level is my target for this coming week. And now that price has flipped bearish, you know, what I really want to see though is going to be this fair value gap hold. Right now, given how, you know, these candles close, we could just straight up move down. But if we kind of move sideways over here, maybe come up and sweep this high locally inside of this fair value gap before moving lower, that's something that I would look for, right? But either way, I'm targeting lower. We went up straight into that volume imbalance, and I think on a lower time frame, this one also is kind of forming an ugly looking market maker sell model, right? So price comes up into a PD array that's at a premium, and then now we get a bit of a reaction. We're starting to move lower. So I personally don't want to see price trade up above that swing level for NQ, right? Maybe we come up, we sweep these highs early on in the week, these highs right here, but I really don't want to see price trade up or close up above this swing level. That's probably going to be, yeah, where I reevaluate my bias on NQ and think to myself, okay, if we're back up above this, then maybe we're going for these highs first. You know, you got these relative equal highs. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, right? We could always just go up here, sweep these highs before coming down. But ideally for me right now is we come up, we sweep those highs inside of this fair value gap, and then we go for this low, right? And then after that, I think we probably have a chance of coming back up over here. In general, I don't like betting against the stock market anyway, right? Because in the long run, it just keeps rallying. So I don't want to get, I'm not overly bearish in the grand scheme of things, but I do want to see those lows taken out. I mean, you notice this is not even like some, oh wow, these are some really old annotations that I have. But yeah, you notice over here, this is not even anything like bearish, right? This is just kind of sideways action. So there's really no point to jump to conclusions and be like higher time frame bearish on NQ. At most, I'm bearish on the daily just to sweep the lows, but that's really about it for now, right? Level by level. And then same with ES. I mean, I know ES already swept those lows. But this target is still the one for me for ES. If NQ goes for those lows like I'm hoping for, I think there's a chance that ES could go all the way down here. There's this volume imbalance that I feel ES might look to fill. Again, yeah, in general though, ES has been stronger than NQ. How did Dow do this past week? Yeah, even Dow Jones, right? This is not even a range. So we ended last week going for new all-time highs on the Dow, and that was what the really strong close was when we were looking at the NQ chart just now. But yeah, for me, it was just all about going into that volume imbalance at a premium and then coming back down. And if, you know, ultimately if the other two, ES and NQ, do end up like showing continued weakness, then yeah, I do think Dow could kind of just come all the way back down here to sweep those lows, right? But I don't really look at this pair too much. I don't really look at the E-mini Dow Jones very much. Out of the three, this is probably the one that I look at least, right? But yeah, so I am still feeling pretty bearish on NQ for now. I want to see those lows taken, so we'll see how that plays out. By the way, like if you guys want to trade NQ, if anybody wants to trade NQ, I don't know if you guys need prop firms, feel free to look into Alpha Futures. Yeah, like I've linked them down below. It's the prop firm that I use for futures. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. I'm trying them out. I really like them so far. They don't have activation fees on their zero plans, and they also don't have a safety net, which I really like, because a lot of prop firms have this safety net, especially the futures ones, and that's kind of frustrating, just wasting time for the most part. But yeah, I'll make sure that that's in the description below, so if anybody's finding a prop firm to trade futures. Yeah, but that's NQ. And then finally, I'm just going to look at crypto really quickly. Bitcoin is just ugly. Just ugly in the sense that yeah, 52,000, the 1-to-1 extension. Got the negative 0.618. Oh no, sorry, that's not the right tool to use. Wait. Alright, so the 1.618 is all the way there. Wow, that is low. But yeah, just this is looking kind of ugly to me for now, crypto. There's very little for me to want to jump and be overly bullish right away. If we can, I think my stance is for the most part very similar to last week, right? My key level right now is this 74K. If we can't reclaim those lows, I'm tempted to believe that we're going to kind of have a slow grind. There's a real possibility we have a slow grind down at that 48K level. Yeah, even down to the 43K level, honestly, if we swept those lows, it could potentially go down that low. Which, I mean, it pains me to say because I'm not a fan, but you see the structure has shifted bearish, right? We've got a low, lower high, lower low. We could just see kind of like a dead cat bounce up to this 74K level as the next lower high before then taking that next leg down. It is going to be something I keep an eye on. But in general, I have not really been overly active trading crypto anymore. It's just, it's more a spot thing for me more than anything else. But I definitely like to keep my eyes on this. And you look at ETH is just showing significant weakness compared to Bitcoin, right? We've got a lower high, lower low. This is gonna be that key level for me again. This 2100, 2000 to 2100. That's the key level for ETH. We'll break down below it. We're going for these levels next. The 1400 in my opinion. I don't think 1700 or anything in the middle is gonna hold really. Not for ETH with the continued weakness that it's shown. Yeah, and I know that that's not really something that makes me happy to say, but yeah, that's what I'll be watching for ETH. Is XRP the only one in the green today? I have to. Okay, so went up, fair value gap, probably gearing up for the next low, especially if Bitcoin shows that weakness. Right, when you've got these crazy moves higher and then price starts coming back down, it's usually going to close all of that. Like, it's going to fill all of it up, which is why I never really bought this on spot, because I knew that if we ever, I mean, with the weakness that alts were showing compared to Bitcoin anyway, I think it was necessary to consider that alt season wasn't going to come, at least not in the way that it has been coming in the previous cycles, right? And so, and if that was the case, if we were not going to get all season, then this was eventually just going to be this, an ugly grind lower, and then I think it's going to fill this whole thing out. Yeah, so this is why I just personally like to stay away from XRP. But the one that hurts me the most right now is Solana, right? This one is just painful to watch. In all honesty, the volume profile trade, or the way it respected the volume profile levels of this entire range, was pretty insane if you think about it, right? Once price broke back inside the value area, we found resistance at the value area high. We went straight for the point of control, and then we broke through it to the value area low. Come back and retest the point of control, this time as resistance, right? Before then going down and sweeping all of these lows of the range. So if Solana is to bounce, this is the place to do it. Because if not, it could go all the way down to this $47 mark, which is not going to be nice. So this I want to see this hold, maybe even reclaim the $95 mark, and if that can happen, then the next step would be to try and reclaim the lows of this value area lows, this $120 mark, right? But yeah, this is just painful to watch, even though it was really clean price action when it comes to the volume profile. Yeah, so more specifically though, for this, I'm still bearish. I'm still looking for lower prices right now. I don't necessarily want to say that, you know, the bottom is not in or it is in. I really don't like doing that. And it's not, none of this is financial advice anyway, right? These are all just my opinions on what I think is going to happen and how I'm seeing and perceiving the markets and the trades that I'll look for accordingly. But if I were a spot holder for this, which I am, I'm already starting to DCA when it comes to crypto. So, you know, that doesn't mean that I think the bottom is in or that it isn't in. I just feel like after a 50% drop, it's not a bad idea to begin DCAing. So you're never really going to catch the bottom. It's kind of impossible to do that. So you rather just dollar cost average, and if it goes lower, then you try to find it in you. Well, I try to find it in me to get some more of that action. But yeah, 74K, that's the level to watch for me. We could, like I said, right now based on this structure, I'm thinking we could just come in, form a lower high, and then go for a lower low below this, right, into that 43K level. But I don't know what the likelihood of that happening is. That's just what I'm kind of seeing and watching for based on this. So yeah, that's about it for the commentary that I had for you guys for this week. So if you guys have any questions, I mean, definitely let me know in the comments. But just to give you a little bit of a recap, dollar, I'm bearish, right? And as a result, the two major pairs that I'm really looking at is the Australian dollar, targeting those highs, and the New Zealand dollar, also targeting those highs. Right, that's what I'll be looking for these two. And then USD JPY, price action last week was super clean until about Friday. But yes, I am still looking for those lows to get taken. That's going to be something I watch. I think what did I say? It was about 60 pips away. Yeah, that's going to be what I watch for. And like I said, I don't expect any of these highs to get swept before going for those lows. So I don't know. Even though this price action was super clean last week, and even though I'm fairly certain that we do go down here, I don't know if a good entry is going to present itself, or if I'm going to be confident given we've got this range over here and we've already got a significant move lower, right? As you guys, if you guys have been listening, you guys know that I would much rather look for my shorts at a premium. This is the bottom of the leg right now, so that's not ideal for me, right? You just increase. I feel like my probability of success just increases when I look for my shorts at premiums and when I look for my longs at discounts. So right now, for the current leg, we're not at a premium, which is why I'm not really confident in a setup. Not necessarily in the direction. Like I'm fairly confident with the direction of where it's going to go and where the next draw is. I'm just not really sure that a setup's going to present itself. But yeah, that's my forex. Those are my forex pairs and biases going into this week. Right, gold and silver already mentioned. I'm leaning bearish unless that daily fair value gap is reclaimed. Right, silver more so just because it's just been showing way more weakness. But it is kind of tough to really know what's happening here. Like I said, on a psychology kind of perspective, I don't think the greed and the euphoria has died down yet, which is why I don't think we're just going to shoot up for another leg. I think there's a very realistic chance we go lower. But that being said, when I say I don't mean it's gonna go or we're gonna get a full-on crash. What I'm talking about is these 4,270 lows. That's gonna be what I'm really watching, right? And the same thing with NQ. Just looking for lower right now. Looking for a sweep up to 24,150, 24,160. That's the level for me to watch. Okay. All right, so I'm probably gonna end it over there for today. I hope you guys found this helpful, and I'll see you guys on the Telegram. That's where I'll